You are listening to Chai with the CEO, a Random Genius Media original.
Start. Good
Okay.
evening, Vernon. Welcome to
Hi.
Chai with the CEO. And, pleasure to have you. Thank you for taking the time out.
My
It's a
pleasure.
pleasure. And I hope you have some beverage handy. You know, we are recording a little late in the evening. So, you're forgiven if it's not chai. So I'll make that clear. So you can have a beverage of your choice. Now, before we kick start, as is customary on Chai with the CEO, we play a little intro to maybe the one or two people that don't know you. All right. And it's done by a very special person to me. I'll let you know who that is in a bit. Just give me a second. Give me a second. All right, here we go.
Hello everyone. Welcome to Chai with the CEO. Today, we've got someone super special, Mr. Vernon Ibrahim. Now, if you think radio is just about pressing play and talking a lot, nope. Vernon is the genius who made Indian FM radio sound super cool. Kind of like the DJ who knows exactly what song makes you dance in your pajamas. He's worked with some of the biggest stations like Red FM, Indigo FM, and more. Basically, everywhere your parents secretly sing along when nobody's watching. And guess what? He's not only about radio. He's also a teacher, a music lover, and a champion of trying out crazy new ideas. So buckle up, because today you're going to meet the man who gave Indian radio its groove and maybe a few secret dance moves too. Mr. Vernon Ibrahim.
Okay. So, so I hope we did you justice, Vernon.
It's easily one of the best, probably the best introduction I've ever had.
Excellent. So I should tell you that was my 10-year-old daughter, Isabella. And she did that all by herself because I was traveling this morning and she came back from school and she recorded. And she is a kind of a perfectionist. She doesn't like doing kind of, as we say, punch-ins. She wants to do the entire take. And this was take three. So, if
Wow,
you
in
have
one take, not bad.
suggestions,
Good.
if you have suggestions for her, but yeah. So anyway,
No,
so
I don't. Seriously, I mean, let's get into it because there's a lot to talk about, a lot of
lot to talk about.
misconceptions, and
Yeah.
getting off right onto this, like seriously, adorable voice, etc. Beautiful story. The point is, if you have a voice like hers on radio, it'll cut through all these so-called good voices with older, deeper male baritones or sweet female voices with perfect diction, etc. These are unnecessary distractions in the pursuit of communication. And communication right now is not about what you're saying, but how you're cutting through all the clutter. And this voice will cut through the clutter. I mean, radio is not that difficult when it's looked at for what the objective actually is. So I hope we could talk about that today.
Of course, of course. Why don't you lead the discussion? Because, like I told you in the preamble before we started recording, this is a very, very close subject to my heart, at least. I was, I've been passionate about. I've been a passionate fan of radio. Let's start with that, right? A listener to start off with, for the last 3 decades. When let's rewind the clock to when there was 107.1 FM, Times FM, Radio Midday, and they had the 1 hour slots on FM before the government really opened it up to private FM stations. So I've been a listener back since I don't know, going back to the early 90s. And yes, Vernon, we are that old. We should admit it. You've not even taken the trouble to dye your hair. I did. I did that, right? So so we should right away kick that off, saying that we we listen to the dawn of FM in this country, and some brilliant radio jockeys or DJs, right? They're not really RJs was a term invented. I think DJ is the politically or the correct term, right? What would you say? What would you say?
Because I mean, I never liked the term RJ because I mean, it's derived from the term VJ, which is which predates the radio jockey movement in India by about half a decade. When MTV came in, it presented the idea that somebody who was confident, who could speak, who knew about the cultural aspects of the market and the viewers of MTV, and was aware of the songs and the artists, who was generally a smart person, could do this video jockeying job, which had absolutely nothing to do with choosing the songs, but more gluing the songs together and being a brand for MTV. So VJ became RJ because DJ was already somebody who played in clubs. But the origin of the term DJ is actually a radio term, somebody who rides the records, riding the discs. That's the origin of
Correct. I said you've seen, to paraphrase, basically you've seen it all since, you've seen the launch of the FM movement in India, right? You pretty much put together the sound for Red FM and Indigo FM, two of the most popular stations in the country, right? You have mentored a lot of DJs, uh, very popular voices. I don't want to take names, but uh, everyone knows whom we are talking about, and anyone familiar with the FM movement will know. So, what in your opinion was the single most the pivotal moment in the FM story in India?
there were lots of moments. I mean, the government agreeing to give out licenses in various spectrums, and then the bidding process, and then the first, second, and third rounds. They were all milestones over the period of about 7 or 8 years. But I think it would be everyone kind of realized the learnings that everyone got from the previous radio stations that they worked on didn't add up to much in a mass market. A lot of the English newspapers, the daily afternoon papers, had their own radio stations at that point, and happily broadcasting in English with English songs. And there was some sort of notion that English language and English music was some sort of aspirational sort of value for an Indian listener. And all it really did was aid in the isolation of All India Radio from the vast majority of listeners. So it became blatantly obvious that when people started FM, I wasn't part of that All India Radio crew at all. I wasn't in radio at all. I was a DJ at clubs, and in clubs, it's you play not so much what they want, but what they need. Because what they want is what they'll state. It's up to the DJ to find out what they actually need that's going to last for their entire set, or contribute, their set to that entire night and the takings for the club, and thereby increase their overall brand value. So that sort of technology of choosing a song and choosing a mood, etc., that extends very much to radio, and that's the ideology that I brought. Even in those days, a lot of DJs in clubs would be playing their sound, what they felt was good music. And for me, because I was detached from the dance music in general, I mean, there's a few artists that I liked, but the vast majority of it wasn't something that I would listen to in the car. So it was very easy for me to be objective. And when I got into radio, that simple concept of not having the baggage, not having the weight around my my sort of on my shoulders of we've done that and it worked, so let's move. I think that's why Red FM in particular was the first station to realize we need to create a wholesome brand, a wholesome story. And that happened around 2004. We were a Hindi station just like Mirchi and City. And it dawned on us that we can't position ourselves using data in terms of the age of the song, the gender, the lyricist, the mood, etc., and choose the songs to pick a sort of audience. And we needed to create a brand, more in the sense of a personality with characteristics, a human being sort of character, than actually creating a radio format. Even though Red FM was the first one, we started out with having a fixed point chart with a morning show, a late morning, afternoon, and the international standard. They modified it for India, but a lot of the stations started out with what's called block programming, which was kind of the all-India radio format, where you sell hours to the sponsors, and they started with that and continued doing it for a couple of years. And as I say, when Red FM came into the picture, it was when we started in Delhi with the Red. I came from Indigo at that point, and Indigo was a learning curve because the management wanted a particular sound at that point, and my job there was what it always was as a DJ, as a programmer: find out what the audience needs and give it to them. It's really that simple. My personal involvement, my personal likes, dislikes, my sense of humor, my acumen, my experience has very little input. That's not true. It has zero input, other than knowing how to be objective about this. Radio was a cut and dry, black and white, data-driven job for me. It really was. I hate to be so crass about it, but my passion was succeeding in a project, try to solve problems. Truth be told, and many people knew this, not many people know it now, but many people knew it then, that I don't speak Hindi very well. What I can speak now is more than I could speak then. The decision was to take Red FM away from the English youth market and go into the Hindi older market. And we did that for a year. And then we rebranded Red FM with Bajate Raho. And that was the watershed. That is when we went from being number 3 out of 3 players to being number 1 head and shoulders in Mumbai with 7 major radio companies. And that simple decision, coupled with music research, choosing some amazing, or rather securing some really good talent in Bombay and Delhi. But it didn't take more than a year for us to go from the bottom of the pack to the top in terms of listenership from research. And that immediately in 6 months went to revenue also. So that was the watershed moment, as far as I'm concerned, for radio, because once that was done, people realized what the formula was. And by then, the writing was on the wall that, we kind of hit radio, kind of hit that peak of whatever it was going to be, 2005, 6, 7, 8. Then the crash in the market came, and the crash followed with it came Facebook. And somebody said, Groove Shark and all these things were there. And the writing was literally in URLs. You just had to look at what people were typing to realize the idea of radio providing this whole objective tapestry of what's available in the sonic library, the contemporary music of the world or of the market. That kind of evaporated from 2007, 8 onwards. It wasn't really the market crash. It was really technology taking over. iTunes came in, and all sorts of things happened, and people began to realize that the complaints they had about radio, which we really couldn't solve, they were being solved by streaming. You could play your songs over and over again. You didn't have to justify your music, etc. It became much easier for people. 2004, 2005, when Bajate Raho started, was the big thing for me, because that's a brand it's now 20 years old. It's going to be 20 years old next year. That Bajate Raho brand. Exactly. And it's a strong, powerful brand. And for me, if I said it was passion, I'd be lying. It was passion to succeed. It was a problem that we had. And I understood how the phrasing worked, the behavioral tendencies of a character who would be Bajate Raho, had attitude, how that character would be. And we just put it everywhere. We stripped the radio bare. We went into the clocks, went into that's where you put all the ads and the music, what sort of songs you want. I redid the category structure of the library from scratch myself. That took months, and that was pure and utter mathematics, very little to do with the songs themselves. Once the research is in, then it was hiring the right talent, and it was very obvious who we wanted, who I wanted, and it took another 6 months to get them, but then it was done. The brand in place, the music in place, the right talent, and telling people what to say, how to behave. Somebody's reviewing a controversial movie. Every radio station's going to say there's a controversy going on. We're not part of it, but it's there and it's terrible. And this girl has said this. Red FM is going to go there and take sides. And that made a difference. Because you can agree with us and you can disagree with us, but you can't ignore us. And that's what Bajate Raho was. There was an ad agency called Euro RSCG. They came up with it. It wasn't mine. I just thought it was genius out of all the other ideas. Correct. And there was a guy called Virag. It was actually his idea, Virag Mishra. He's the lyricist. And we sat down, and he's like, I'm okay with English. He's a genius with Hindi, and so we just sat down and we structured this entire character with my understanding, and it was his idea. Sat with the RJs and said, okay, this is how you'll respond, all based on the people who would respond in that way anyway. So I wasn't asking RJs to act. I wasn't giving them a flowcharts of responses. I was telling them that if you were this character, which is part of your character, if you're in this confrontational, don't mess with the little guy mood, how would you respond to this? We want you in that frame of mind all the time. That's where the RJs you're talking about came from. Because it wasn't telling them to do something. It was much more, don't do this, don't do this. You do this well. That's what we want.
Got it. And then you had rock stars like Jose and Malishka and Mantra and there's a whole galaxy of stars that came out, and in fact, I mean, and I should shout out to Jose for connecting us, because I got your number through him, and he's a junior from school, and he's done so well for himself, and kudos to him. And he would never be the choice of somebody looking to put a Hindi radio station together, because he is as Bandra Bugger as they get, right? But his Jose and all of that stuff just flew and became viral before viral was invented, right? I mean, he is so funny. And, and the unabashedly this is me, my Hindi is bad, so F you kind of thing. I think that's what people latched on to, and there was it was unapologetic, right? And then you had Mantra doing his thing, and you had Malishka, of course, doing her thing, and you just and like you rightly said, I mean, 20 years later, the branding still exists. It's stood the test of time, which is so amazing. And I publicly stated this on LinkedIn that I have shifted brands from one radio station to another, because I've recently started driving my car. I hate driving in Bombay city, right? I've been like on the Bullet, but I've sold my Bullet recently, and now I'm in a car. And when I listen to the radio station, I want to know what's happening, and I want somebody to make me laugh, and I want to get through the traffic, right? And I don't, like you said, I don't need perfect diction. I just need somebody to talk to me like a friend, and I get that on Red FM. And it's been fun. It's been early days, but I think the music selection is fabulous. The kind of humor is fabulous. The tongue-in-cheek humor, everything is great. I mean, I'm guessing that you're happy they've kept to the DNA of the brand, right? Maybe some tweaks along the way, but I think kudos for creating a brand, that has stood the test of time. I'm getting a little stoked because radio brings out that in me, right? I mean, I'm
I hear what you're saying, but it's two parts here, because the brand Red FM absolutely has stood the test of time. It was built, it was constructed, it was built from the ground upwards. It wasn't built on any previous thing that we had. We stripped it bare with the airwaves were dead as far as we were concerned. We said, in that space, what can we fill that's going to generate the most income? Let me be nasty about this. And up against that, we had to calculate how much will it cost to market this. If we say we have the best music, that requires some sort of an argument with the public saying, okay, do you know what the best is? This is the best. Now we play this much and they play that much. And we realize that's stupid. Plus, no one's going to believe it. It's a very expensive message to tell people. So then we realize the same thing with any controversy. If we tell people that we don't give a fuck, we're kind of rough edged, and it's kind of unhinged at times, and you never really know where we stand on something until it's clearly said, because we do take a side. But until then, it's interesting to see where we're going to land, and you may not like it. And there was a lot of confrontation in the boardroom when I was pushing the programming concept forward based on the brand and explaining that we will be telling a whole bunch of people with our marketing, it's not for you. This is
It's
not
not for
for
you.
you.
It's not for you.
If
Correct.
you don't like to hear a confrontational person on the radio, if you don't like hearing somebody with a loud voice shouting at somebody else because they've thrown litter on the footpath, if that's not what you want, if you want to hear gentle pop songs, oh, there's a half a dozen other radio stations to listen to. We would tell our listeners with our communications with that. And
Yeah.
that, I think, is something that Red FM still stands for today. That's why it stood up, you know. Mirchi's a kick-ass brand in terms of positioning, the name, the flavor, the attitude. I mean, everyone looks at Times of India as a group for what it is, a huge, powerful media conglomerate. But the genius creative ideas that team had, I have to salute them every step of the way. Every year of radio for 8, 9 years, I'll be going like, oh, they got consultants, the right consultants, and they listened to them and they got what they wanted and they put down a format that everyone followed to the extent that when people came from Mirchi, they would take their diction with them. And even if I would say, no, it's not called it, okay, screw it, let's call it that. And so now Mirchi terms are now radio terms in India. You can ask anyone, you find the genesis of a lot of terminologies for Radio Mirchi from the training that they had. And it wasn't just they got the right people, they listened to them. It was just the right attitude they had. And as a brand, they were stunningly powerful. Big was no small fish. They came in with fins and tails flapping away, splashing the water. We were going, what's going to happen here? Then Fever came in with some powerful programming people, really good talent and an excellent music strategy, and a format that had worked internationally that I had a feeling would work as long as it was Indianized quickly. Because the trouble with radio is if you market something and say, come listen, people will listen. They're going to give you one chance. If you ask them to listen, if they discover you, they'll give you 10, 20 chances. If they're just cruising on the dial, what is this? I don't like that. They'll come back.
Yeah.
But if there's a hoarding saying, tune in now, we're the best. Okay, let's go. And if we're not serving that promise of being the best, then they're not going to come back to us. You get my point? So
Right.
changing the format takes a few months. Getting the team trained into it takes another couple of months. Marketing, it takes a couple of months. Measuring, it takes a few months. It takes a year for the cycle. And only then do you know where you stand. And that's why I think Red FM just fell on its feet very, very well during that transition. But it wasn't easy going up against some huge competition with some amazingly talented people. We took from them, they took from us. And as you say, it's not one station. There's a whole community of people who've been there for 20, 25 years, or maybe just a few months, but they're all, either from or still in radio. And I don't think it's a particularly close-knit community, but I think that there's a lot of stuff that we have in common that, if we sit down over a coffee, we could have some very intellectually challenging and interesting conversations that other people go, category ratio, artist separation, what is that nonsense, and to us, it's like, oh.
So you know what surprises me, or what actually I marvel at is that you guys were functioning in a time and era where there was no data to look at. Radio didn't even have a measurement system for a long time. So what data were you functioning?
Yeah. See, that's the whole point. There are three types of data that you can get for any media company. One is marketing data, where we'll throw 2 or 3 lakhs and get a whole bunch of college people to go and ask other college people, do you like this radio station? Good, huh? And they'll say yes, yes. And we can come back generally and say 80% said Red FM kicks ass. It's genuine. It's just the way we ask the question. It's worthless. It's worthless. Even the public didn't buy it. It's a joke. But the marketing people kept on saying, do it, do it. And one of my biggest struggles was saying, no. Research money is not going to go there. That's marketing money. Research money is us actually finding out for ourselves what's working, what's not working, what new opportunities might be there. Where are we shooting ourselves, in the eardrums? Where are we, wasting a lot of effort, what's not working sort of thing. And then, of course, there's public research, which is the research you're talking about, the rankings of the radio stations, TAM, RAM, PAM, DAM, etc., all of these things, which are no, I mean, I'm not trivializing them.
Fair enough.
Because they have a place. I mean, India is not the first country to complain about a rating system which seems to be not rigged but a little bit unfair. But the fact that everyone thinks it's unfair, every client thinks it's unfair, every performer, every station, every company thinks it's unfair, means it's kind of fair. and in the absence of anything else, because radio stations aren't going to say, here's 5 lakhs a month, get some real research. Or we're number 9. That was money well spent. You get my point.
Yeah.
It's like medical research. It's the
Correct.
same thing as medical research. If you've got a drug which is working on people and they need to take it every 6 months and it costs 10 lakhs per year, twice a year, and there's somebody suggesting that maybe half the dose will work as good, but we need research to back that up. Do you really think the company is going to spend money in order to halve its revenue? That's where the radio business was. It's just that with the medical industry, they're playing with lives and with people's health. Here, we're playing with people's entertainment and share value. So we could have been a little more aggressive. And I think, again, that's where Red FM, when Abraham Thomas came in, it was just a very good team between me and him. He really gave me the freedom to try a lot of stuff, as did Arun Puri with Red FM. When I said research, he said, how much? I said, about 35. He said, 1,000. I said, no, lakhs. He said, once. I said, no, twice. He said, okay, do it in the way that Arun Puri does. And so we did that. And without that, Red FM wouldn't be Red FM what it is today. No, I mean, it's very easy to look at the brand and look at the incredibly strong talent that's there in terms of producers and writers and on-air talent and music managers, etc. But the music research that we did to isolate what songs were working at that point in time, and then using that data to, I called it Nazi programming because it was so utterly heartless. It was devoid of emotion whatsoever, and I loved it. I absolutely adored it. Because it was very easy for me to see, let's do this for a month. Let's check, let's do a dipstick, send some kids in the market, generally get 100, grades 5 on 10, how are we as a music station, and come back and see that a month after month, what are people responding to? And then you realize that it is working. The research does actually help us get more listeners for longer periods of time. It's easier for us at that time. The secret was, which is pure mathematics, and you know this, if you're playing a library of 2,000 songs, about 1,900 of those songs will be crap to the vast majority of listeners. Absolute rubbish songs. I'm talking about what the listener's going to hear.
Correct.
So what we did is play only the 150 songs they wouldn't consider were crap. That's what we did. Then we went out and said we play the best music, super hits, Bajate Raho. And we went out and told people, if you turn on the radio station, turn on Red, if we're playing a crappy song, and you can define it as crappy, not that you don't like it, say it's a crappy song, we've lost the argument. And of course, whenever they turned on the song, because of the way we sequence the songs, because the programming, the strategies that I put in place, it worked brilliantly. It worked like a genius. We'd go into sales meetings and go into boardrooms and having all the marketing heads of various people, and we'll present Red FM, and we'll turn the radio station on there, and then live, randomly, we'll say, we play hit music, check this out. And everyone will say, oh yeah, that is a hit song. And they knew we couldn't have programmed it that way. And then they realized, oh shit, that's actually a promise. It didn't take long for the other stations to catch up when they realized that it was pure mathematics. It was passion of me to succeed, but doing as little effort as possible. And for me, as little effort is the quickest, most logical route. Don't play the bad songs.
Don't play the
There was a music manager in Mumbai. I've told this story to a few people, and she was talented. She was trained in Hindustani music. She was a wonderful musician and singer, and she really knew her music. If she listened to a song, she'll tell you everything about it, the history, the tal, everything she could tell you about it. And she was the music manager for Red. And just before we made this transition, I brought in this research and I said, we're going to use this from now on. And this is going to sequence things, and it's going to be algorithmic, purely and utterly an algorithm. She said, then what's my job? I said, you can have a look at this and see if things don't make sense, if you can make it make sense better. And she said, but then my job is to select the songs. I said, this does it better. In fact, if you can learn how to do this manually, that's the ultimate. Because if a human being can apply emotion and cultural values of what's going on right now with an algorithmic process, we don't need the computer. But of course, do need the computer. She left in a huff and a puff, and there was I had to get a new music manager in, and I was interviewing people in a different location, not the radio station, and I was doing interviews in one conference room, and next door there was another set of interviews going on, and this guy comes in, one candidate for music manager, and I meet him, and I asked the same questions. I said, do you like Bollywood music? Because I want people who say, Bollywood, fuck yeah. S and Shankar, oh, Ram some, yes, that's what I wanted. I didn't want somebody critical. I
Yeah.
like some, I want somebody to say, fuck, that's my life. I could do it. I said, okay. He said, yeah, I love Bollywood music. And he was out now, unashamedly passionate. I said, okay, next question. How are you with numbers? He said, I love numbers. How are you with Excel and grids and spreadsheets? You can handle like formulas. He said, yeah, I love that stuff. There and then I said, do you want to do the job? Just on that. It turns out he was being interviewed for the accountancy job next door. He came in by accident. He's still there today. That was in
Wow.
2006. He's still working there today.
Wow.
He's that important. He's that key. He's that critical to that radio station. Without
Amazing.
him, he is the music of that radio station. Remove him, it would sound different.
This is so cool. Such a
Because it was one of the. I wasn't talent by me. It was just serendipity that happened. That everyone who wanted to manage music wanted to put their inputs. This guy just wanted to look at logic and enjoy the job, and he's thanked me for it. Every time I met him, he said, "Hey, bro." I said, "Bro, you're the man. You're the one who's laid this down," because he did the job with precision, to the extent that even today you can turn on Red FM anytime you'll hear a hit song.
Okay, excellent.